You do not transform your life when you make one powerful decision. You transform it when that decision survives an ordinary Tuesday. That is where most men fail. They become excited. They make a plan. They promise themselves a complete change. For 3 days, they act with unusual energy. Then the excitement fades, the schedule becomes inconvenient, and the old pattern returns. They conclude that they lack willpower. Usually, the problem is simpler. They tried to change too much before they had trained anything to become automatic. Understand this clearly. A habit is not a small thing. A habit is a repeated vote for the kind of man you are becoming. 1 day of discipline proves very little. 100 ordinary days of discipline can alter character. That is why lasting change often begins so quietly that nobody notices. You rise at the decided hour. You read 10 pages. You save a small amount. You practice a skill for 30 minutes. You write the letter. You take the walk. You finish one task before beginning another. None of these actions looks dramatic. That is precisely why they are powerful. They can be repeated. And what can be repeated can become part of identity. Do not build your transformation around rare bursts of effort. Build it around actions you can perform, even when enthusiasm is absent. This is the first law of practical change. Start small enough to continue. Men often resist this because small beginnings offend pride. They want the whole result immediately. If they decide to become healthy, they attempt an extreme routine. If they decide to improve finances, they create rules they cannot sustain. If they decide to study, they demand hours of concentration before they have trained 30 minutes. Then the plan collapses under its own weight. The failure was not proof that the goal was wrong. The design was wrong. A strong habit should first be easy enough to become consistent. Consistency before intensity. Remember that order. You can increase intensity later. But if you cannot repeat the action, you cannot compound it. Suppose you want to become a reader. Do not begin by promising yourself 100 pages every evening if you rarely read 10. Read 10. Read them at the same hour if possible. Do it for long enough that opening the book becomes expected. Then increase. The important victory at the beginning is not volume. It is regularity. You are teaching the mind. This is what we do now. Repetition gives that instruction force. The same principle applies to money. A man says, "I will save when I earn more." That can become a permanent excuse. Begin with an amount you can actually protect. The amount may be modest. Protect it anyway. You are not only building a reserve, you are building the identity of a man who pays his future before spending everything in the present. That identity can later handle larger sums. This is why small habits matter beyond their immediate result. They train self-trust. Every time you keep a small promise, the mind receives evidence that your word means something. Every time you break a promise casually, the opposite lesson is taught. This is why grand resolutions can be dangerous. A man promises too much. He breaks the promise. Then he makes another grand promise to repair the guilt. Soon his own declarations carry no authority. Do not live that way. Make smaller promises and keep them. A kept promise of 15 minutes is more useful than a broken promise of 2 hours. You are rebuilding authority over yourself. That authority becomes one of the foundations of success. A definite chief aim needs a man capable of obeying his own decisions. If you say you want wealth but cannot control one small daily expense, the aim is not yet supported by habit. If you say you want mastery but cannot practice consistently, Desire is ahead of discipline. If you say you want leadership but cannot govern your own morning, responsibility is ahead of preparation. Do not be insulted by this. Use it as instruction. Ask what daily behavior the larger result requires. Then reduce that behavior to a repeatable unit. This is how you make ambition practical. A large goal can feel distant. A habit brings it into today. You cannot become financially independent this afternoon. You can save today. You cannot master a profession this week. You can study today. You cannot build a reputation for reliability in one conversation. You can keep one promise today. That is the power of habits. They convert distant identity into present conduct. And present conduct is the only part of transformation you can perform now. Do not spend all your energy thinking about the man you want to become. Give that man something to do today. Then repeat it tomorrow. This is more effective than constantly searching for motivation. Motivation is useful. Use it when it appears. But never build a system that requires motivation to function. A habit should eventually reduce the number of decisions you must make. You should not debate every morning whether you will study. The hour arrives. You study. You should not negotiate every week about saving. The income arrives. The amount is set aside. The decision was made earlier. This saves mental energy. Indecision is expensive. Every repeated debate gives weakness another opportunity to speak. Good habits remove unnecessary debate. They create rules. At this hour, I work. When I receive income, I save this portion. Before I answer in anger, I wait. Before I make a major purchase, I examine it. Rules turn intention into structure, and structure becomes especially valuable on difficult days. Anyone can follow a plan when life is calm. The habit proves its worth when conditions are inconvenient. You are tired, but you still read 10 pages. You are discouraged, but you still keep the appointment. You earn less this month, but you still protect something for the future. You are irritated, but you still refuse reckless speech. You must also choose habits according to leverage. Do not create 20 small routines merely because routines sound productive. Choose the few that influence several areas. A regular waking hour may improve work, health, and concentration. Daily reading may improve knowledge, vocabulary, judgment, and confidence. Keeping written accounts may improve spending, planning, and decision-making. A daily planning period may reduce wasted effort across the whole day. Look for habits whose benefits spread. These are leverage habits. Begin with one or two. Do not turn self-improvement into a crowded program. Crowded programs collapse because they require too much attention before anything has become automatic. That early evidence builds momentum. Suppose you choose a 30-minute period of study each evening. For the first month, your main objective is simple. Show up. Do not judge every session by how brilliant it felt. Some sessions will be excellent, some ordinary. The habit is being built through attendance. A man misses one day and says the streak is ruined. Then he abandons the whole routine. That is foolish. One missed day is an event. 2 weeks of quitting is a new pattern. Return quickly. This should become another rule. Never allow one lapse to become an identity. You overspent once. Return to the budget. You missed one practice period. Return tomorrow. You lost your temper. Correct the damage and return to restraint. Transformation is not created by never slipping. It is created by shortening the distance between slipping and returning. The man who once disappeared from discipline for a month may learn to return in 2 days. Later, one day. That is progress. Do not ignore it because perfection has not arrived. Habits are strengthened by recovery, too. You are teaching yourself that interruption does not equal abandonment. Your system must be strong enough to bend without breaking. That is why small habits are useful. They can often survive difficult conditions in reduced form. Perhaps you normally study for an hour. During a difficult week, study 15 minutes. Keep the identity alive. Perhaps you normally exercise for 40 minutes. On a crowded day, walk 10. The reduced action says, this still belongs to my life. Then return to the full routine when conditions improve. This is far better than the all-or-nothing mind. The all-or-nothing man says, if I cannot do it perfectly, I will do nothing. Nothing compounds very well. Use minimum standards. Decide what the smallest acceptable version of the habit is. 10 pages, 10 minutes, 1 written paragraph, 1 saved amount, 1 completed task. The minimum is not the final standard. It is the floor that protects continuity. Once continuity becomes strong, increase the challenge. Now discipline begins expanding naturally. You no longer need to force a complete new identity overnight. You strengthen the existing habit. 10 pages become 20. A small reserve becomes a larger percentage. 30 minutes of practice becomes an hour. This is how lasting transformation differs from emotional reform. Emotional reform says, from tomorrow, I will become completely different. Practical transformation says, beginning tomorrow, I will repeat this specific action until it becomes part of how I live. The second statement is less dramatic. It is more dangerous to the old life because the old life was built through repetition, too. You did not become disorganized in one day. You practiced disorder. You did not become financially careless in one purchase. You repeated a pattern. You did not become easily discouraged because of one setback. You repeated a way of interpreting setbacks. Habits built the present condition. Habits can help build another. Every habit is training. The question is what it is training. When you postpone necessary work, you are practicing postponement. When you complain before acting, you are practicing helplessness. When you spend without thought, you are practicing impulse. When you keep your word, you are practicing reliability. When you begin despite reluctance, you are practicing initiative. Nothing repeated is neutral for long. Choose your repetitions. This is why environment matters. A habit becomes easier when the environment supports it. If you intend to study, prepare the desk before the hour arrives. Place the book where it is visible. Remove unnecessary materials. If you intend to keep accounts, keep the record where it can be updated easily. If you intend to write each morning, prepare paper and pen the evening before. Reduce friction. Use organization. A factory arranges tools so work can proceed efficiently. Arrange your personal environment with the same intelligence. Good intentions should have physical support. If every evening is filled with invitations, interruptions, and unplanned commitments, study will remain difficult. Protect the hour. If money is always mixed together without categories, saving becomes vague. Separate the amount. If every task is treated as equally urgent, concentration disappears. Choose the first task before the day begins. Habits need boundaries around them. Otherwise, the rest of life will consume whatever time remains open. One protected hour is easier to defend than an entirely redesigned life. One financial rule is easier to remember than 15. One morning practice is easier to establish than a complete schedule built overnight. Small habits give you something concrete to protect. You begin saying no to what interferes with the standard. Now the transformation is spreading. A reading habit may teach boundary setting. A saving habit may teach delayed gratification. A walking habit may teach consistency. One habit can train qualities far beyond its original purpose. That is why you should choose the first habits carefully. The first habit should not merely produce a result. It should help build the kind of man capable of larger results. And once that first small habit begins carrying itself with less effort, the next question becomes especially important. How do you stack one good habit upon another without turning your life into another grand plan that collapses under its own ambition? The next habit should not be chosen because it sounds impressive. It should be chosen because the first habit has already created enough stability to support it. That is how you build without collapse. A man establishes one reliable practice. Then he attaches another small practice to something that already happens. He reads after breakfast. He reviews expenses after supper. He writes tomorrow's priorities before leaving his desk. The existing event becomes a signal. This reduces the need for fresh decision. You are not asking the mind to remember 10 unrelated intentions. You are connecting one action to another. But do not stack too quickly. A habit that has been practiced for 5 days is not yet a foundation. Give it time. Let it become familiar enough that missing it feels unusual. Then add. The man who adds before the first habit is stable creates a tower on wet ground. It may stand for a week. Then one difficult day arrives and the whole structure falls. Do not blame yourself for weak architecture. Build better architecture. Suppose you have established 30 minutes of study after supper. Keep it. After several weeks, add 5 minutes of written review at the end. What did I learn? What should I apply? Now, one habit strengthens another. Study creates knowledge. Written review turns knowledge into retention and action. Later, perhaps the review becomes the place where tomorrow's principal task is chosen. Now 3 useful behaviors are connected around one existing routine. This is how a life becomes organized without requiring constant force. The secret is sequence. One reliable action. Then another that naturally belongs beside it. Then another only when the earlier structure is carrying itself. You are not trying to impress yourself for 1 week. You are trying to alter conduct for years. Years reward systems that can be lived. This is why every new habit should pass a simple test. Can I still perform this when the day is ordinary? Not when I am inspired, ordinary. Can I do it when business has been demanding? Can I do it when nobody is encouraging me? Can I do it when the result is still invisible? If the answer is no, reduce the habit until the answer becomes yes. You can enlarge it later. The beginning must be repeatable. This principle protects you from emotional overreach. A man becomes enthusiastic and says he will rise 2 hours earlier every morning. Perhaps he can. But if his entire evening remains unchanged, he has created a battle with sleep rather than a habit. A better approach may be moving bedtime earlier by 15 minutes, then another 15. The waking hour changes gradually. The whole system supports the result. Good habits rarely stand alone. They are supported by other habits. Ask what prepares the habit. Ask what follows it. Ask what environment makes it easier. If you want to write in the morning, the evening routine matters. If you want financial discipline, the way you record purchases matters. If you want calmer speech, the habit of pausing before answering matters. One visible habit often rests upon several invisible supports. Build the supports. This is how you stop depending upon heroic effort. Heroic effort is expensive. It is useful in emergencies. It should not be required for ordinary life. A man who needs enormous willpower every morning has not yet organized the morning well. Perhaps he stays awake too late. Perhaps he begins the day without a plan. Perhaps every tool he needs is scattered. Perhaps he makes too many decisions before beginning useful work. Reduce unnecessary friction. Discipline is not only forcing yourself through resistance, it is also arranging conditions so resistance has less opportunity to appear. This is intelligent self-management. The businessman does not place his machinery randomly and congratulate himself for working around the disorder. He organizes the floor. Do the same with habits. Place the desired behavior where it can happen naturally. If you want to read, make the reading place ready. If you want to plan, keep one notebook for plans. If you want to save, decide the amount before discretionary spending begins. If you want to practice a skill, determine the hour and material in advance. Preparation converts intention into probability. Do not leave every decision for the moment when weakness is strongest. Make important decisions while judgment is calm. This applies especially to habits involving temptation. Suppose you repeatedly spend more than intended. Do not rely only upon restraint while standing before the purchase. Create rules earlier. Above this amount, I wait 1 day. This portion of income is never spent. I do not borrow for appearances. Now temptation meets a pre-existing decision. That gives self-command reinforcement. The same can be done with speech. If anger repeatedly causes damage, decide beforehand that important replies are delayed when emotion is high. The rule exists before the argument. This is powerful because the disciplined version of you can make arrangements that protect the undisciplined moment. Use that advantage. You already know some of your weak moments. Plan for them. If you lose concentration late in the day, place demanding work earlier. If you make poor financial decisions when trying to impress others, decide your spending rules before entering that situation. If you abandon study when tired, create a minimum 10-minute version for difficult evenings. Self-knowledge should become structure. Otherwise, you learn the same thing about yourself repeatedly without changing anything. A useful habit system anticipates weakness. It does not assume weakness will disappear because you made a resolution. This is where humility helps. You admit, under these conditions, I usually make a poor decision. Then you change the conditions where possible. A man who knows a bridge is weak does not keep driving heavier loads across it to prove confidence. He reinforces the bridge.